I was born at Middle Fork, West Virginia, March the 29th, 1913. My parents were Fred Brengardner and Laura Thacker Brengardner. He was from Columbus, Ohio, and she was from New Lexington, Ohio.
My grandfather came, great-grandfather, came in from England and came over before this was a country. And she first went to South Carolina, South Carolina, and my father met her down there and married her, and they came back to North Carolina.
Dad developed some lumber business and bought timber down in Kentucky. And so we moved to Lexington, Kentucky in 1929, November 1929, and lived at 1014 East Main Street at that time.
They had two children, my brother, who was later killed in an automobile accident. And he and two of my cousins were driving. He wasn't driving, but two of my cousins were sitting in the front seat, and one of them was driving, and they had somebody ran into them, and my brother was killed. And then my father later on died, and that mother died with I think it was a heart attack, but I'm not sure, but anyway, he died. And so mother had me, and we lived in North Carolina.
We had just about the normal childhood, you know, that you had good times and bad. Of course, as I said, when we were teenagers and up, the economy was bad, so everybody kind of got their recreation by just going around to different houses and rolling up the rug and dancing and whatnot and doing that sort of thing. And then the shows, I think, were about 10 cents to go to the show, and you went to the restaurant or the drugstores where you did mostly curb service, and you had a sandwich for 10 cents and a Coke for 5. So things were reasonable, but you didn't have any money.
It was not a very good time then, financially, anywhere. And so we had farmland. We didn't live on it, but we had farmland, and it wasn't making enough, and so my mother had to go to work, and she never worked a day in her life.
Dad graduated Holy Cross, and he just introduced me to Holy Cross, but didn't want necessarily to go there, so I decided I wanted to go to Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, which I did my freshman year. And then after my freshman year, Dad couldn't afford to send me back, so that's when I went to the University of Kentucky. University of Kentucky, degree Bachelor of Arts, May 1935. Of course, in the 30s, the Depression hit and was very trying for anybody in any business. And so Dad had a real hard time adjusting, because he just made a big investment down in Kentucky. So he had a heart attack in 1940 and died at that time in July of 1940. We
would go to, had family that were quite a lot of family there, and we had used to go to Wrightsville Beach, which was in North Carolina, in the summertime with with our family. And then I also had an aunt who had a place in Virginia, and I'd go up and stay with her, so we had a really good time. Then in the wintertime we would come back and go to school.
Lumber was very much of a war industry. They wanted production of lumber, and they were very anxious, so I was single at the time, but they kept saying, you'll never go in the Army or Navy or Armed Forces of any type, because you're so much more adapted and needed in production of lumber. Then I got kind of upset about the fact that everybody that I knew of my age, in particular if they were single, were in the Armed Forces. And I went up to Indianapolis for a test, and so they offered me a Lieutenant JG commission in the Navy. When I met Florence was at Virginia Beach, but that was when I was in the Navy in Washington, D.C. One of the fellows that was in our house up there, kind of like fraternity house, I said, had been in the Navy Air Corps, and he had been sent back to Virginia Beach for R&R, and then he came to Washington in the Air Corps, Navy Air Corps, and he said, well, I can get you reservations down there. So he called down to Avamere, which was Florence's aunt's motel or hotel, and she owned the one next door, or one of her sisters did. And so we went down to the Avamere, and the Navy flyers had been renting the one next door. But he was, of course, in Washington. But then we met, there were girls there that worked at Avamere, and so we all had dates and went out to dance. And that time I didn't have a date. I had a date with one of the other girls, and Florence dated another one of the naval guys. And then I came back later and had dates with Florence, and that's where we got really acquainted.
Was he the first man you ever loved?
Oh, I had quite a few dates. But he was the one I married.
We were married in 1946 at the Cathedral in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was 33, and she was 7 years younger. But we just had kind of a fascination for one another. I bought the house before Florence came to town. These friends of mine said, I've got a house that I think you'll like. We had 3 kids pretty rapid. Charles, and then 12 months. 12 months later, Ann was born. And then 12 months later, about 13 months later, Ed was born. So we bought out on Lakewood Drive, 1429 Lakewood Drive. And that's where, and we had a 4-bedroom house, and 2 downstairs and 2 up. And Ann and Florence and I were downstairs in the 2 bedrooms, and the boys were upstairs in one of the bedrooms, and the other was kind of a guest bedroom. Well, when Ann began getting older and required a lot more bathroom facilities, we decided we needed to get a bigger place. So we got, and see, she used our bathroom downstairs. And so we decided to buy, and we bought on Essex Park first. And then it was kind of a pie-shaped lot, and we didn't like that too much. So we exchanged it for one down on Chenawee that was kind of rectangular shape, and we liked that much better. When we moved out here, that whole thing was farm. Oh, it was a wire farm.
Is that right?
Yeah. Had a little wire fence. Cows used to come up the back.
Boy, trees are wild.
It's amazing, isn't it? And see, our land goes right in a V, about right up there to where you can see that far tree on the right. See, we had this, most of this was tobacco, and mostly soybeans up there. I bought this, exchanged for it, is really what we did, so we wouldn't have to pay taxes. We sold down there in the mountains in 1972. See, they've got a lot of it now. You can see up here. They've got some of it down.
Oh, how did you all become Cha-Cha and Flo-Flo?
Who gave us those names?
It kind of developed. Cha-Cha was easier than, you know, Charles, and of course Florence wasn't so much, but I called her Flo-Flo a long time. She had the name Flossie by her friends, and
I hate it.
I didn't like it. I thought it sounded like, so I said, I'll call you Flo-Flo. So that's right. Then the kids, of course, picked it up, as you all did. Well, I'm just pleased to be able to be 90 years old, but I wish I had more of my pep at 20 or 30 years earlier. We used to have a battle to see who was going to be boss. Finally, I just gave in.
That is ridiculous. That's all I can say. Don't pay any attention to him. Our life together, Charlie's and mine, is great. Because I grew up with the men in my life dying, and then he has lived so long, and I have lived so long, and it's wonderful.
Well, we've just always gotten along. You always have your ups and downs, but our ups have been much better than our downs. Oh, I'm pleased with, well, life in general, I think has been real good to me. I'm very much pleased with all of it.
And it's just kind of special. I look around and I see other people who have not had quite the wonderful things that I've had. And I know how lucky I am.
Chats, what do you like most about Flo-Flo?
Her cookie.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
We've had means, you know, good children, good grandchildren.
Good wives.
And we've already been through that. That's it, F. Here, you want? Now, is that close?
That's good
That
stuff
close.
right there. That close.